In the cold, vast emptiness of space, far from Earth's comforting blue skies, an alien fleet drifted silently toward the solar system. These were the Valax, a race known across the stars for their advanced technology and ruthless efficiency. Their ships glowed faintly with an eerie green light, each vessel bristling with weapons capable of obliterating entire planets. They had come seeking answers, drawn by strange energy readings that pulsed irregularly from human spacecraft. Captain Ryan Holt stood on the bridge of the Starship Odyssey, his eyes fixed on the main view screen as the Valax fleet loomed larger. He was a man in his late 30s with sharp features and a calm demeanor that masked the tension building inside him. Around him, the crew worked tirelessly, their faces pale but determined. This was humanity's first encounter with an alien species, and it wasn't going well. "Captain," said Lieutenant Samantha Brooks, her voice steady despite the situation. She was the ship's chief engineer, a brilliant woman with curly brown hair tied back in a loose ponytail. "We've received another transmission from them. Same message, surrender or face destruction." Ryan nodded slowly, his jaw tightening. He turned to Dr. Eric Lane, the science advisor who stood nearby, clutching a data pad filled with information about the Valax. Eric was younger than most senior officers, barely into his 30s, but he carried himself with quiet confidence. His glasses reflected the soft glow of the control panels around him. "What do you think, Eric?" Ryan asked. "Do we have any chance against them?" Eric hesitated before answering, his brow furrowed in thought. "Their technology is far beyond ours," he admitted. "If they want to destroy us, they probably can. But there's something odd about those readings they're picking up from our ships. I don't think they fully understand what they're seeing." Samantha chimed in, her tone urgent. "That's why we need to send them a message. Something to make them pause, even if just for a little while." Her fingers danced over the console beside her, pulling up schematics of one of the smaller drones stored aboard the Odyssey. "We could use this drone to deliver a recording, a warning." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "A warning? What kind of warning?" Samantha glanced at Eric, then back at Ryan. "Something simple but mysterious, like, 'Human ships are unique,' was the warning given to the aliens. It doesn't give too much away, but it might make them hesitate long enough for us to figure out our next move." The captain considered this for a moment, weighing the risks. The Valax weren't known for patience or mercy. If they saw the message as a bluff, they might attack immediately. But doing nothing would leave them completely defenseless. Finally, he gave a curt nod. "Do it," he said. "Prepare the drone and launch it as soon as possible." Within minutes, the small, unassuming drone detached from the Odyssey and floated toward the Valax fleet. Its surface shimmered faintly under the dim starlight as it transmitted the pre-recorded message. When the signal reached the lead ship, the reaction was immediate. Lights flickered across the alien vessels, and several smaller craft broke formation to intercept the drone. On the bridge of the Odyssey, the crew watched anxiously as the Valax examined the tiny device. Ryan clenched his fists behind his back, trying to appear calm for his team. Samantha leaned forward, her eyes glued to the sensor readings. "They're scanning it," she murmured. "Looks like they're analyzing the message now." For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the Valax fleet began moving again, spreading out in a wide arc. One of the larger ships sent a new transmission, this time addressed directly to Ryan. The voice that came through the speakers was deep and resonant, laced with curiosity rather than hostility. "You claim your ships are unique," said the alien ambassador, introducing himself as Kale. "Explain this uniqueness, or we will assume deception and act accordingly." Ryan exchanged a glance with Samantha and Eric. This was unexpected. The Valax hadn't attacked yet, which meant they were genuinely intrigued, or suspicious. Either way, it bought them some time. "We're still studying the phenomenon ourselves," Ryan replied carefully, choosing his words with precision. "What we do know is that human ships operate differently from anything else in the galaxy. Perhaps that's why your scans picked up unusual readings." Kyle's response was slow in coming. When it arrived, it carried a note of skepticism. Your explanation lacks detail. We require proof of this uniqueness. Failure to provide satisfactory evidence will result in your annihilation. The threat hung heavy in the air, but Ryan kept his composure. Understood, he said. We'll gather the necessary data and share it with you shortly. As the transmission ended, the bridge fell silent. Everyone knew they were running out of options. The Valax wouldn't wait forever, and humanity's survival depended on finding a way to prove their claims, or bluff convincingly enough to survive. Samantha broke the silence first. There has to be something special about our ships, she said, pacing back and forth. Something we haven't noticed yet. Otherwise, why would they care so much? Eric nodded slowly, rubbing his temples. Maybe it's not just about the ships themselves. Maybe it's about how we interact with them. Humans have always been adaptable, creative. Could that somehow translate into the way our ships behave? Ryan listened intently, his mind racing. You're saying the key might not be in the technology itself, but in us? Exactly, Samantha said. Think about it. Our ships are designed by humans, built by humans, and operated by humans. Maybe that connection makes them different from anything the Valax have ever encountered. This theory sparked a flurry of activity among the crew. Samantha dove into the engineering logs, searching for anomalies in the ship's behavior. Eric reviewed old mission reports, looking for patterns that might support the idea. Meanwhile, Ryan contacted Earth for assistance, hoping someone there could shed light on the mystery. Back on the planet, Professor Clara Bennett was already piecing together clues from humanity's distant past. A historian specializing in ancient civilizations, she had spent years studying obscure texts and artifacts. Recently, she'd uncovered references to strange objects left behind by visitors from the stars, objects that seemed to influence early human technology. When Ryan's request for help reached her, Clara immediately recognized its significance. She forwarded her findings to the Odyssey, explaining that these ancient artifacts contained traces of alien nanotechnology. More importantly, they appeared to respond to human thought and emotion, suggesting a symbiotic relationship between creator and creation. As Clara's report arrived, Samantha felt a surge of excitement. This could be it, she exclaimed. If ancient humans interacted with alien tech, maybe some of it got passed down through generations. Maybe that's why our ships seem alive sometimes. With renewed determination, the crew set to work testing Samantha's hypothesis. They ran simulations, conducted experiments, and pored over every scrap of data they could find. Slowly but surely, a picture began to emerge, one that hinted at a truth far stranger and more profound than anyone had imagined. But time was running out. The Valax were growing impatient, and their fleet continued to expand its perimeter around the Odyssey. Every hour brought them closer to a decision point. Either humanity would unlock the secret of their ship's uniqueness, or they would face the full might of an alien armada. As the hours ticked by, Ryan found himself reflecting on the weight of command. He had always believed in his crew's ability to rise to any challenge, but this was unlike anything they'd ever faced. Yet even in the face of overwhelming odds, there was a spark of hope, a belief that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its weapons or machines, but in the indomitable spirit of those who dared to explore the unknown. And somewhere deep, within the heart of the Odyssey, hidden beneath layers of metal and circuits, something stirred. While the crew of the Odyssey scrambled to uncover the secrets of their ship, Professor Clara Bennett worked tirelessly back on Earth. Her office was cluttered with books, maps, and ancient artifacts, each piece holding fragments of humanity's forgotten history. Clara was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a passion for unraveling mysteries. She had spent decades studying civilizations long gone, piecing together stories from carvings, scrolls, and relics. Now those same stories might hold the key to humanity's survival. Clara's latest discovery had sent shivers down her spine. Deep within the archives of an old Mesopotamian temple, she found references to visitors from the stars, beings who had shared knowledge with early humans. These visitors left behind strange objects, described as glowing orbs or metallic discs, which seemed to respond to human touch. The texts hinted that these artifacts were not just tools but partners, capable of adapting to the needs and desires of their users. Most intriguing of all was a recurring phrase etched into stone tablets. "Our vessels hold secrets beyond comprehension." When Ryan Holt contacted her, asking for anything that might explain the uniqueness of human ships, Clara knew she had to share her findings. She sent him a detailed report along with images of the artifacts she'd been studying. "If these objects truly influenced our ancestors," she wrote, "then perhaps traces of their technology still exist in modern designs. Maybe your ships are unique because they carry echoes of something far older and more advanced than we realize." On board the Odyssey, Samantha Brooks read Clara's message with growing excitement. She immediately called Eric Lane, the science advisor, to discuss the implications. Together, they decided to run tests on the ship's hull material, hoping to find evidence of alien influence. The two of them worked late into the night, their hands moving quickly over consoles and instruments as they analyzed sample after sample. At first, the results were inconclusive. The hull appeared to be made of standard alloys, nothing out of the ordinary. But then Samantha noticed something unusual, a faint vibration in the metal that seemed unrelated to the ship's systems. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it persisted even when all power was cut off. Intrigued, she zoomed in on the readings, isolating the source of the anomaly. "Eric, look at this," she said, pointing to a graph on her screen. "It's like nanobots, tiny machines embedded in the hull itself." Eric leaned closer, his glasses sliding down his nose. "That's impossible," he muttered. "We don't have the tech to integrate nanobots into starship construction. Not yet. Anyway, unless someone else did it for us," Samantha replied. "Clara's research suggests that ancient humans interacted with alien tech. What if some of it got passed down? What if we've been using it without realizing?" The idea was staggering, but it made sense. If the Valax fleet was confused by the energy signatures coming from human ships, it could be because those ships weren't entirely human-made. They might contain remnants of alien engineering, adapted over centuries to suit human purposes. This would explain why the ships behaved unpredictably and why the Valax were so interested in them. Determined to learn more, Samantha and Eric conducted further experiments. They exposed small sections of the hull to various stimuli, testing how the material reacted under different conditions. To their amazement, the nanobots responded not just to physical inputs, but also to mental ones. When Samantha focused her thoughts on a specific area, the nanobots rearranged themselves, altering the structure of the metal. Eric tried it next, concentrating hard, and achieved similar results. "It's alive," Samantha whispered, awestruck. "Not literally, but it's responding to us, it's learning." "This changes everything," Eric said, his voice trembling with excitement. "If we can control this, we might be able to use it against the Valax." Word of their discovery spread quickly through the ship. Captain Ryan Holt convened a meeting with the senior staff to discuss their options. The mood was tense but hopeful. For the first time since the Valax arrived, the crew felt they had a fighting chance. "We need to test this on a larger scale," Samantha told the group. "See if we can manipulate the entire ship, not just small parts of it. If we succeed, we'll have a weapon the Valax won't expect." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "Do it. But be careful. We don't know what kind of risks we're dealing with here." Over the next few days, the crew worked around the clock to unlock the full potential of the Odyssey. Samantha led the effort, guiding her team through complex simulations and real-world trials. At first, progress was slow. The nanobots resisted large-scale changes, requiring immense concentration and coordination to activate. But gradually they began to respond more readily, as if they were growing accustomed to their creator's commands. During one trial, Samantha asked the crew to imagine the ship transforming, a wall shifting, a corridor extending, a weapon system reconfiguring itself. To everyone's astonishment, the ship obeyed. Panels slid open, revealing hidden compartments. Floors shifted, creating new pathways, and weapons emerged from concealed alcoves ready for deployment. It was as though the Odyssey had come alive, reshaping itself to meet its crew's needs. This is incredible, Eric said, staring wide-eyed at the transformed bridge. It's like the ship is part of us now. And maybe it always has been, Samantha added. We just didn't know how to listen. As the crew celebrated their breakthrough, Clara continued her research on Earth. She dug deeper into the ancient texts, searching for clues about how the original artifacts functioned. One passage caught her attention. To awaken the vessel, one must speak with the heart. The phrase was vague, but Clara suspected it referred to the emotional connection between humans and the alien tech. She forwarded her interpretation to Ryan, suggesting that the crew focus not just on technical skills, but on their bond with the ship. These artifacts thrived on trust and understanding, she explained. Perhaps the same principle applies to your vessel. Inspired by Clara's insight, Ryan encouraged his crew to approach the ship with openness and faith. He reminded them that the Odyssey wasn't just a machine. It was an extension of themselves, shaped by their hopes, fears, and dreams. Slowly but surely, the crew embraced this mindset, treating the ship with reverence rather than fear. Meanwhile, the Valax grew restless. Their scans of the Odyssey revealed increasingly erratic energy patterns, confirming that the human ship was unlike anything they'd encountered before. Ambassador Kale sent another message, demanding an explanation. Ryan responded cautiously, hinting at the ship's adaptive nature without revealing too much. You claim your vessel adapts, Kyle said during the transmission. Prove it. Show us this so-called uniqueness or prepare for annihilation. Ryan exchanged a glance with Samantha and Eric. They weren't ready for a full demonstration. Not yet. But they couldn't afford to wait much longer. The Valax. Fleet was closing in, their weapons primed for attack. We'll show you, Ryan promised. But not until we're certain you'll understand. As the transmission ended, the crew braced themselves for what lay ahead. They had unlocked a powerful secret, but mastering it would take time. Time was a luxury they no longer had. In the quiet moments between preparations, Ryan found himself reflecting on Clara's words. The professor had emphasized the importance of speaking with the heart, of forming a true partnership with the ship. He realized now that this wasn't just about technology, it was about trust. Trust in themselves, in each other, and in the mysterious forces that bound them to the Odyssey. Late one night, as the ship drifted silently among the stars, Ryan stood alone on the observation deck. He gazed out at the endless expanse of space, feeling both insignificant and empowered. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to adapt, to innovate, and to believe in the impossible. And somewhere deep within the heart of the Odyssey, the nanobots stirred once more, waiting for their creators to guide them toward destiny. The tension aboard the Odyssey was palpable as the Valax fleet tightened its grip around the human ship. The alien vessels loomed like shadows, their green glow casting an eerie light across the hull of the Odyssey. Captain Ryan Holt paced the bridge, his mind racing with possibilities. The crew had made incredible progress, unlocking the ship's hidden potential, but they were still unprepared for a full-scale confrontation. They needed more time they didn't have. Lieutenant. Samantha Brooks approached Ryan, her expression a mix of determination and concern. Captain, she began, her voice low but steady, we can't keep stalling them. If they send another probe or try to board us, we're in trouble. Ryan nodded, his eyes fixed on the view screen showing the Valax fleet. I know, he said. But if we reveal too much too soon, we risk losing the advantage. We need to give them something, a taste of what we're capable of, but not enough to figure us out. Samantha thought for a moment, then suggested a risky plan. What if we let them board us, not with a full invasion force, but with a small probe? We rig the ship to overload temporarily while they're inside. It'll confuse them, make them think our systems are unstable. Ryan frowned, considering the idea. A boarding attempt by the Valax could be disastrous, but Samantha's plan had merit. If executed carefully, it might buy them the time they needed to fully master the ship's adaptive abilities. Still, the risks were enormous. Do you think we can pull it off? Ryan asked, turning to Dr. Eric Lane, who stood nearby. Eric adjusted his glasses, his brow furrowed in thought. It's dangerous, he admitted. If the overload goes wrong, we could lose critical systems. Or worse. But if we succeed, it might throw them off balance long enough for us to prepare. Ryan took a deep breath and gave a curt nod. All right, let's do it. Samantha, work with your team to set up the overload sequence. Eric, monitor the probe's activity once it docks. I want every detail recorded so we can analyze its behavior later. With the plan in motion, the crew sprang into action. Samantha led her engineering team to key sections of the ship, installing devices that would trigger the simulated overload. Eric coordinated with the science department, ensuring they had the equipment needed to track the probe's movements. Meanwhile, Ryan addressed the rest of the crew, preparing them for what was to come. We're walking a fine line here, Ryan said during the briefing. If this works, we'll buy ourselves some breathing room. If it doesn't, well, let's just say we won't get a second chance. Stay sharp, stay focused, and trust each other. Hours passed in tense anticipation. Finally, the Valax sent a signal indicating they were deploying a probe. On the view screen, a sleek metallic craft detached from one of their ships and drifted toward the Odyssey. Its surface shimmered faintly, and it emitted a low hum that resonated through the hull. As the probe docked, the crew braced themselves. Samantha activated the overload sequence, causing lights to flicker and alarms to blare throughout the ship. Panels sparked, consoles went dark, and corridors filled with smoke. For a brief moment, chaos reigned. Inside the probe, sensors scrambled to process the sudden surge of conflicting data. The ship's erratic behavior defied logic, leaving the Valax operators bewildered. After several minutes, the probe disengaged and returned to the fleet, carrying corrupted information back to its creators. On board the Odyssey, the crew struggled to regain control. While the overload had been simulated, the strain on the ship's systems was real. Several critical functions were offline, including life support in some areas and half the weapons array. Samantha worked tirelessly to restore power, her hands flying over her console as sweat dripped down her face. It's working, Eric announced, reviewing the data collected during the probe's visit. They think our systems are unstable, maybe even self-destructive. This could make them hesitate before launching a full assault. Ryan allowed himself a small smile, though his relief was short-lived. The damage to the ship was extensive, and repairing it would take time. Time they might not have if the Valax decided to press their advantage. Back on Earth, Professor Clara Bennett monitored the situation closely. She had been in constant communication with the Odyssey, offering insights based on her research. When she learned about the probe incident, she sent an urgent message to Ryan. The artifacts I've studied responded best under conditions of harmony and focus, Clara wrote. Your ship may require the same. Encourage your crew to remain calm and united. Stress and fear could disrupt its adaptive abilities. Ryan shared Clara's advice with the crew, emphasizing the importance of staying composed despite the chaos. He reminded them that the Odyssey wasn't just a machine. It was a living entity, shaped by their thoughts and emotions. Together, they worked to stabilize the ship, channeling their collective energy into restoring its systems. Slowly but surely, the Odyssey began to recover. Lights flickered back on, consoles hummed to life, and life support resumed normal operations. By the time the last repair was complete, the crew felt a renewed sense of connection to their vessel. It was as if the ship itself had responded to their determination, rewarding their efforts with restored functionality. Meanwhile, the Valax fleet remained cautious. Ambassador Kale contacted the Odyssey again, his tone laced with suspicion. Your ship's instability concerns us, he said. Explain why we should believe it poses no threat to our forces. Ryan chose his words carefully. Our technology is experimental, designed to adapt to unforeseen challenges. Yes, it's unpredictable, but only to those unfamiliar with its nature. To us, it's an extension of ourselves. Kyle hesitated, clearly conflicted. The Valax. prided themselves on their precision and control, yet the Odyssey defied every principle they held dear. For the first time, doubt crept into their calculations. Could humanity truly wield such chaotic power? While the Valax deliberated, the crew of the Odyssey continued refining their understanding of the ship's abilities. Samantha conducted new experiments pushing the nanobots to greater feats of transformation. Walls shifted, creating barriers where none existed before. Weapons reconfigured themselves, adapting to simulated threats with uncanny speed. Eric marveled at the results, his earlier skepticism replaced by awe. "It's like the ship is learning," he said, "not just responding to commands, but anticipating our needs." Samantha nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "We're teaching it to fight alongside us, to protect us." As the days passed, the bond between the crew and the Odyssey grew stronger. They practiced maneuvers that would have been impossible for any conventional ship, mastering techniques that turned their unpredictability into an asset. Each success bolstered their confidence, proving that humanity's greatest strength lay not in brute force, but in creativity and resilience. Yet, the looming threat of the Valax never faded. Their fleet remained in orbit, watching and waiting. Though the probe incident had bought the Odyssey valuable time, everyone knew it wouldn't last forever. Sooner or later, the aliens would decide whether to negotiate or annihilate. One evening, as the ship drifted silently through space, Ryan joined Samantha on the observation deck. Together they gazed out at the stars, the distant glow of the Valax fleet a stark reminder of the danger ahead. "We've come a long way," Ryan said softly. "But we're not done yet." Samantha smiled, her gaze steady. "No, we're not. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together, just like the ship." Ryan nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to adapt, to innovate, and to trust, not just in their technology, but in each other. And somewhere deep within the heart of the Odyssey, the nanobots stirred once more, ready to carry their creators toward destiny. The crew of the Odyssey had reached a turning point. The ship's adaptive abilities were becoming clearer, but mastering them was no small task. Every transformation required focus, coordination, and trust, a combination that tested the limits of even the most seasoned crew members. Samantha Brooks spent hours poring over data logs, trying to understand how the nanobots responded to different stimuli. Her experiments revealed patterns she hadn't noticed before. Certain thoughts or emotions triggered specific changes in the ship's structure. Anger caused walls to harden, almost as if the ship prepared for battle. Calmness allowed corridors to expand, creating space where it was needed most. Dr. Eric Lane joined her efforts, using his expertise to map these responses. Together, they discovered that the nanobots weren't just reacting to commands, they were learning. Each trial added new layers to their behavior, making the ship more intuitive with every use. "It's like teaching a child," Eric said one night as they reviewed the latest results. "You show it what you want, and it figures out how to do it better next time." Samantha nodded thoughtfully. "But we're not just teaching it tricks. We're showing it how to protect us, to adapt to whatever comes our way." Their progress didn't go unnoticed by Captain Ryan Holt. He watched from the bridge as the ship shifted and reconfigured itself during drills. Panels slid open to reveal hidden weapons, corridors twisted into defensive mazes, and shields shimmered into existence without warning. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Yet, despite the ship's growing capabilities, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were still missing something crucial. On Earth, Professor Clara Bennett continued her research into ancient artifacts linked to humanity's mysterious past. She believed these relics held the key to understanding the Odyssey's unique nature. One artifact in particular caught her attention, a metallic disc etched with intricate patterns. When touched, it emitted faint vibrations almost like a heartbeat. Clara suspected this was the same kind of technology embedded in the ship's hull. Her breakthrough came late one evening while studying an old text. The passage described how the artifacts responded not only to physical touch, but also to emotional, Intent. To awaken the vessel, it read, one must speak with the heart. Clara realized this wasn't just poetic language, it was a literal instruction. The artifacts thrived on connection, requiring users to form a deep bond with them. Excited by her discovery, Clara sent an urgent message to Ryan. The ship isn't just listening to your commands, she wrote. It's responding to your emotions. Focus on unity, trust, and purpose. If the entire crew connects with the ship on an emotional level, its potential could be limitless. Ryan shared Clara's findings with the crew, urging them to embrace the idea of partnership with the Odyssey. This ship is alive in a way we're only beginning to understand, he told them during a meeting. It doesn't just obey orders, it feels what we feel. Fear, anger, doubt, all of it affects how it behaves, but so does hope, determination, and faith. Inspired by his words, the crew began practicing mindfulness exercises designed to strengthen their mental and emotional connection to the ship. Samantha led sessions where everyone focused on positive thoughts, visualizing the Odyssey as an extension of themselves. At first, the results were subtle. Lights brightened slightly when the crew felt confident, and systems ran smoother when tensions eased. But over time, the effects became undeniable. During one drill, Ryan asked the crew to imagine the ship transforming into a fortress-like structure capable of withstanding any attack. To their amazement, the Odyssey responded instantly. Walls thickened, reinforced with layers of nanobot-created armor. Weapons emerged from concealed alcoves ready for deployment. Even the engines hummed with newfound power as if eager to carry them through danger. It's working, Samantha whispered, awestruck. We're doing it. Eric grinned, shaking his head in disbelief. This is incredible. We've never had this kind of control before. Word of their success spread quickly, boosting morale across the ship. For the first time since the Valax arrived, the crew felt truly prepared. They weren't just passengers aboard a starship. They were partners in a grand experiment, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Meanwhile, the Valax fleet remained cautious. Ambassador Kyle had grown increasingly frustrated by humanity's resilience. His scans of the Odyssey revealed energy signatures that defied explanation. The ship seemed to change shape at will, adapting faster than any known technology. Despite repeated attempts to analyze it, the Valax found themselves no closer to understanding its secrets. Kyle sent another message to the Odyssey, demanding answers. Your vessel continues to elude us, he said. Explain its mechanisms or we will consider it a threat. Ryan replied calmly, choosing his words carefully. Our ship is unique because it reflects who we are. It adapts, evolves, and grows alongside us. You cannot measure it with your tools because it exists beyond mere machinery. Kale's response was curt. Then demonstrate this uniqueness. Prove it is not a danger to our forces. Ryan knew this was the moment they had been preparing for. The Valax wanted proof, and now the Odyssey was ready to deliver. He gathered the crew for a final briefing, outlining their plan. We'll give them a demonstration they won't forget, he said. Show them exactly what makes us and our ship different. As the crew prepared for the upcoming encounter, Samantha and Eric worked tirelessly to fine-tune the ship's abilities. They practiced complex maneuvers, testing the limits of the nanobot's adaptability. Walls shifted into defensive barriers, weapons reconfigured mid-battle, and corridors transformed into traps for hypothetical intruders. Each drill brought them closer to mastery, building confidence among the crew. Back on Earth, Clara monitored the situation closely, offering guidance whenever needed. She reminded the crew to stay united, emphasizing the importance of emotional harmony. The ship thrives on connection, she wrote. If you work together as one, it will respond in kind. Finally, the day arrived. The Valax fleet moved into position, surrounding the Odyssey with ominous precision. Their ships glowed brighter than ever, weapons primed for attack. On board the Odyssey, the crew stood ready, their hearts pounding, but their resolve unshaken. Ryan addressed them one last time. Today, we show them what humanity is made of. Not just our technology, but our spirit. Trust the ship, trust each other, and trust yourselves. As the Valax launched their assault, the Odyssey sprang to life. Walls shifted, corridors twisted, and weapons deployed with unparalleled speed. The ship danced through space, evading attacks and countering with devastating precision. To the Valax, it seemed less like a machine and more like a living entity, unpredictable yet unstoppable. Kyle watched in stunned silence as his forces struggled to keep up. "What manner of vessel is this?" he muttered, his voice tinged with awe. On board the Odyssey, the crew worked as one, their minds and emotions perfectly aligned with the ship. Samantha guided the transformations, her hands moving instinctively. Over the controls, Eric monitored the nanobots' activity, ensuring they responded smoothly to the crew's commands, and Ryan steered the ship with unwavering confidence, knowing they had finally unlocked its true potential. By the time the battle ended, the Valax fleet was in disarray. Several of their ships had retreated, their crews baffled by the Odyssey. His performance. Kyle contacted Ryan once more, his tone markedly different from before. "You have proven your point," he said. "Your vessel is indeed unique. We underestimated humanity. Perhaps there is value in cooperation rather than conflict." Ryan allowed himself a small smile. "Perhaps there is." As the Valax withdrew, the crew of the Odyssey erupted into cheers. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, not through brute force but through ingenuity, teamwork, and trust. The ship itself seemed to hum with satisfaction, its nanobots settling into a steady rhythm as if proud of what they had accomplished together. In the quiet moments that followed, Ryan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity's survival wasn't due to superior weapons or advanced technology. It was rooted in something far deeper. The Odyssey wasn't just a ship. It was a testament to human creativity, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between creators and their creations. And somewhere deep within the stars, the legacy of ancient visitors lived on, reminding all who listened. Human ships are unique, and so are those who sail them. The Valax fleet lingered at the edge of the solar system, their ships glowing faintly in the dark expanse of space. Though they had retreated after the battle, they weren't ready to leave entirely. Ambassador Kale sent a new transmission to the Odyssey, his voice carrying a mix of caution and curiosity. "Your demonstration has given us much to consider," he said. "We request negotiations to discuss terms of coexistence." Captain Ryan Holt listened carefully, his expression unreadable. He turned to Samantha Brooks and Dr. Eric Lane, who stood nearby on the bridge. "They're scared," Ryan said quietly. "They saw what we can do and now they want to talk." Samantha nodded, her eyes narrowing slightly. "But we can't trust them completely. They might still be planning something." Eric adjusted, his glasses, his brow furrowed in thought. "Agreed. But this is our chance to secure peace, or at least buy more time to prepare." Ryan made his decision quickly. "Tell them we'll negotiate, but it has to happen aboard the Odyssey. Let them see firsthand what makes us unique." When Kale received the message, he hesitated. The idea of boarding the human ship was risky, but it also presented an opportunity. If the Valax could learn more about the Odyssey's secrets, they might find a way to counter its abilities. After a brief discussion with his commanders, Kale agreed to the terms. Preparations began immediately. The crew worked tirelessly to ensure the ship was ready for the Valax delegation. Samantha led efforts to reconfigure certain areas of the Odyssey, creating spaces that would showcase its adaptive nature without revealing too much. Corridors shifted subtly as the nanobots responded to her commands, forming intricate patterns in the walls. Panels slid open to reveal hidden compartments filled with advanced technology, giving the impression of limitless possibilities. Meanwhile, Eric focused on gathering data from previous encounters with the Valax. He reviewed every scan, every recording, searching for weaknesses or patterns in their behavior. His goal was simple: understand the enemy as thoroughly as possible before they arrived. On Earth, Professor Clara Bennett continued her research, sending regular updates to the Odyssey. Her latest findings reinforced the importance of emotional connection with the ship. "Remember," she wrote, "the artifacts thrived on harmony and purpose. Keep your bond with the Odyssey strong during the negotiations. It will respond to your unity." Ryan shared Clara's advice with the crew, reminding everyone of the role they played in the ship's success. "This isn't just about showing off our technology," he said. "It's about proving that humanity's strength comes from working together. Trust each other, and the ship will follow." As the day of the negotiations approached, tension filled the air. The crew rehearsed protocols for dealing with the Valax delegation, preparing for every possible scenario. Security teams conducted drills, practicing how to isolate sections of the ship if needed. Medical staff stood by, ready to treat injuries should the situation turn hostile. Finally, the moment arrived. A sleek, silver shuttle detached from the Valax flagship and glided toward the Odyssey. Its surface shimmered faintly, reflecting the distant light of the sun. As it docked, the crew braced themselves, unsure of what to expect. Kale emerged first, flanked by two Valax officers. Their tall, slender frames were covered in smooth metallic armor that gleamed under the ship's lights. Their faces were partially obscured by visors, making it difficult to read their expressions. Despite their imposing appearance, there was a hint of unease in their movements as they stepped onto the Odyssey. Ryan greeted them personally, standing tall and calm. "Welcome aboard the Odyssey," he said, extending a hand. "I hope you'll find our vessel enlightening." Kale regarded him coolly, ignoring the gesture. "We are here to understand your uniqueness," he said. "Show us why your ships defy logic." With that, the tour began. Samantha guided the delegation through the ship, pointing out key features while subtly demonstrating its adaptability. Walls shifted behind them as they walked, creating barriers where none had existed moments before. Panels opened to reveal advanced systems, only to close again as they passed. The Valax watched closely, their scanners working overtime to capture every detail. At one point, Samantha paused near a section of the hull where the nanobots were most active. She placed her hand against the wall, concentrating deeply. Slowly, the metal rippled beneath her touch, forming intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly. Kyle stared in silence, clearly fascinated, and perhaps a little unnerved. "This is not mere machinery," he said finally. "How do you control such power?" "It's not about control," Samantha replied. "It's about partnership. The ship responds to us because it's part of us." Kale exchanged a glance with his officers, his expression unreadable. "Partnership," he repeated slowly. "An interesting concept." As the tour continued, Eric joined the group, offering explanations for some of the ship's functions. He spoke in simple terms, avoiding technical jargon to make the concepts easier to grasp. "Our technology evolves alongside us," he explained. "It learns from experience, adapting to meet new challenges." The Valax listened intently, asking questions that revealed both interest and suspicion. They wanted to know how the ship's systems worked, but they also probed for vulnerabilities. Ryan answered carefully, sharing enough information to satisfy their curiosity without compromising security. By the time the tour ended, the atmosphere had shifted slightly. While the Valax remained cautious, there was a growing sense of respect for the humans and their ship. Kale acknowledged this during the final meeting, held in the Odyssey's main conference room. "You have shown us something remarkable," he said. "A vessel that adapts, evolves, and grows with its creators. Such ingenuity is rare in the galaxy." Ryan leaned forward, his tone measured but firm. "And yet, it is not just the ship that sets us apart. Humanity's strength lies in our ability to adapt, to face challenges with creativity and determination. That is what makes us unique." Kyle considered this for a long moment. "Perhaps there is value in cooperation rather than conflict," he said. "If your species can achieve such feats, then perhaps we have underestimated you." With those words, the negotiations began in earnest. Both sides laid out their concerns and desires, seeking common ground. The discussions were tense at times, with moments of doubt threatening to derail progress. But the bond between the crew and the Odyssey remained strong, providing a foundation of stability. Throughout the talks, the ship itself seemed to play a role. Lights brightened when agreements were reached, dimming slightly during disagreements. Corridors expanded to create comfortable spaces for dialogue, then contracted when tensions rose. It was as if the Odyssey was guiding the process, nudging both parties toward compromise. Eventually, a tentative agreement was reached. The Valax would withdraw from Earth's solar system, granting humanity a period of peace. In return, humans promised to share limited knowledge of their adaptive technology, enough to foster understanding but not enough to pose a threat. As the Valax delegation prepared to leave, Kyle addressed Ryan one last time. "You have earned our respect," he said, "but remember this. Alliances are fragile. Do not test our patience." Ryan met his gaze steadily. "Nor will we tolerate aggression. Peace is a choice we must all make." With that, the Valax boarded their shuttle and returned to their fleet. As their ships disappeared into the void, the crew of the Odyssey let out a collective sigh of relief. They had achieved the impossible, not through force, but through ingenuity and unity. In the days that followed, the crew reflected on what they had accomplished. The Odyssey had proven itself to be more than just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's potential. Together, they had faced an overwhelming threat and emerged stronger than ever. Professor Clara Bennett summed it up best in her final message to the crew. Humanity's greatest strength has always been its ability to connect with each other, with the world around us, and even with the stars above. The Odyssey is proof of that connection, a living testament to what we can achieve when we trust in ourselves and in each other. As the ship drifted silently through space, its walls hummed softly, alive with the energy of countless nanobots. Somewhere deep within its structure, a spark of ancient alien technology still pulsed, intertwined with the spirit of those who sailed aboard it. And so, the journey continued, a reminder that human ships are unique. And so are those who sail them. The Valax fleet vanished into the depths of space, their glowing ships fading from sight like embers in the night. Aboard the Odyssey, the crew stood on the observation deck, watching the last traces of green light disappear. For the first time in weeks, they felt a sense of calm, a fragile peace, but peace nonetheless. Captain Ryan Holt leaned against the railing, his eyes fixed on the stars. He thought about everything they had been through, the fear, the uncertainty, the moments when it seemed like all was lost. And yet, here they were, alive and victorious. "We did it," he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. Samantha, Brooke, stood nearby, her arms crossed as she gazed out at the emptiness where the Valax had been. Her mind replayed the events leading up to this moment, the experiments, the battles, the negotiations. She smiled faintly, feeling a deep sense of pride. "Not bad for a bunch of humans," she said, her tone light but sincere. Dr. Eric Lane chuckled, shaking his head. "Not bad at all. I still can't believe we pulled it off." Ryan turned to face them, his expression thoughtful. "It wasn't just us. The ship played its part too. Without it, we wouldn't have made it this far." Samantha nodded. "Yeah. The Odyssey isn't just metal and circuits, it's alive, in a way. Like it grew with us." Eric adjusted his glasses, his brow furrowing slightly. "Do you think we'll ever fully understand it? Or will it always be one step ahead?" "Maybe that's the point," Samantha replied. "It's not supposed to be predictable. That's what makes it so powerful." Back on Earth, Professor Clara Bennett sat in her office, surrounded by books and artifacts. She had followed the events aboard the Odyssey closely, marveling at how the crew had risen to the challenge. Now, as news of the Valax withdrawal spread, she felt a mix of relief and wonder. Humanity had faced an alien threat unlike anything in history, and emerged stronger because of it. Clara picked up one of the ancient metallic discs she had been studying. Its surface shimmered faintly, almost as if it were alive. She ran her fingers over the intricate carvings, thinking about the visitors who had left these objects behind thousands of years ago. They knew, she whispered to herself. They knew humanity would find a way. Her thoughts drifted to the Odyssey and its crew. They hadn't just survived, they had thrived, proving that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to adapt and innovate. The ship itself was a testament to that spirit, a fusion of human ingenuity and alien technology working in harmony. As days passed, life aboard the Odyssey returned to a semblance of normalcy. Repairs continued, systems were fine-tuned, and the crew worked together to ensure the ship remained ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. But there was a new sense of purpose among them, a shared understanding that they were part of something greater than themselves. During one quiet evening, Ryan gathered the senior staff in the mess hall for a rare moment of downtime. The room buzzed with conversation as plates were passed around and laughter filled the air. For once, no one was rushing off to deal with emergencies or staring at monitors tracking enemy fleets. To the crew of the Odyssey, Ryan said, raising his glass, and to the ship itself. Without either of you, none of this would have been possible. Everyone raised their glasses in response, cheers echoing through the room. Samantha grinned, clinking her glass against Eric's. Here's to surviving. Impossible odds, she said. And making history while we're at it, Eric added with a smile. After dinner, Ryan stepped outside onto the observation deck again. The stars stretched endlessly before him, each one a reminder of how vast and mysterious the universe truly was. He thought about the Valax and their advanced technology, their strict adherence to order and precision. In many ways, they represented everything humanity wasn't: predictable, calculated, unyielding. But that wasn't a weakness, Ryan realized. It was humanity's greatest strength. Their unpredictability, their creativity, their refusal to give up even when the odds were stacked against them. That was what set them apart. It was why the Odyssey worked the way it did, responding not just to commands but to emotions, thoughts, and dreams. As he stood there, lost in thought, Samantha joined him. She leaned against the railing, her gaze fixed on the same stars Ryan had been staring at. "You okay?" she asked after a moment. "Yeah," Ryan replied. "Just thinking about everything. How far we've come." Samantha nodded. "Me too. It's crazy, isn't it? A few weeks ago we didn't even know half of what the ship could do. Now look at us." "I guess that's the thing about humanity," Ryan said. "We don't always know what we're capable of until we're pushed to our limits, and even then we keep finding ways to surprise ourselves." Samantha smiled. "That's what makes us unique. Not just the ship, but all of us." Back on Earth, Clara wrote a final report summarizing her findings and the events surrounding the Valax encounter. She titled it simply, "Humanity's Legacy." In it, she described how ancient alien technology had influenced human civilization, leaving behind fragments that shaped the course of history. She argued that the Odyssey was proof of that legacy, a living bridge between past and present, connecting humanity to its forgotten origins. "The visitors who came before saw something special in us," Clara wrote. "They saw potential. And now, thousands of years later, we've begun to fulfill that promise. Not by following their path, but by forging our own." Her words resonated deeply with the crew of the Odyssey. When Ryan received the report, he shared it with everyone aboard. The message was clear. Humanity's journey was far from over. There were still mysteries to uncover, challenges to face, and stars to explore. One evening, as the Odyssey drifted silently through space, the ship seemed to hum with contentment. Lights flickered softly, panels shifted subtly, and corridors glowed faintly, as if alive with energy. The nanobots within the hull pulsed rhythmically, responding to the thoughts and emotions of those aboard. Samantha walked through the corridors, running her hand along the walls. She could feel the faint vibration beneath her fingertips, a reminder of the bond they had formed with the ship. "You're amazing, you know that," she murmured, half joking. Eric joined her, his footsteps echoing softly. "Talking to the ship now?" he teased. Why not? Samantha replied with a grin. It's listened to us this long. Maybe it deserves a little appreciation. Eric chuckled. Fair enough. It has saved our lives more times than I can count. Together they wandered through the ship, marveling at how much it had changed since their journey began. Walls shifted seamlessly, creating pathways that hadn't existed before. Panels opened to reveal hidden compartments, each one a testament to the ship's adaptability. In the engine room, Samantha paused to check the status of the power systems. Everything was running smoothly, thanks to the nanobot's constant adjustments. She glanced at Eric, who was reviewing data on his tablet. Do you think we'll ever stop being surprised by it? She asked. Probably not, Eric admitted. And honestly, I don't think we should. If we ever stop being amazed, we'll lose sight of what makes it special. Samantha nodded, her gaze lingering on the glowing core at the heart of the engine. You're right. Let's hope we never stop learning. As the Odyssey sailed onward, its crew carried with them the lessons they had learned, not just about the ship, but about themselves. They had faced an alien threat and emerged stronger, united by trust, determination, and hope. They had proven that humanity's uniqueness wasn't just in its technology or its weapons, it was in its spirit. And somewhere deep within the stars, the legacy of ancient visitors lived on, reminding all who listened, human ships are unique, and so are those who sail them.